Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is another one of our monthly webinars. This time we're going to be focused on training. So Joe and Johnny are going to take you through some of our use cases, some of the problems we see, some of the solutions, and a little bit of the metrics that we've seen from other customers implementing our solution for training. So it's a good session. I think we have probably 20, 25 minutes of total talk time, a good 15, 20 minutes of live demos, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. One, just a couple quick notes. One, this is being recorded, and two, feel free to submit your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A tab, and we'll hit them at the end. So with that, let me turn it over to Joe.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Like Chris mentioned, we're going to be talking about training. There's many different use cases that digital work instructions as well as augmented reality can help out with, but the main focus for today is talking about the training aspect. My name is Joe Kluke. I lead North American sales, operation, and some delivery if we ever decide to work on a project together. I also have Johnny Gorvet with me. He's going to be the one leading the actual demonstration component of our webinar today. Quick agenda. There's simple agenda. We only have a couple of different topics we're gonna cover, and then we're gonna get into the demo. I'm gonna keep my portion as light as I can as a lead into the demonstration, but really we're gonna focus on the challenges with traditional training. What's going on in the market today? What are some of the challenges that we see out there? Then from there, it's like, what can you do about it? What are some of the options? And we're going to share with you one of the options. And then through the live demo, we'll also get into how some of our customers are using it today and some of the benefits that you're seeing. And then live question and answering session. But first and foremost, Taqtile, many of you are here that have actually maybe been on a webinar before or met with us before, so you might have a background, but who we are is we're a digital instruction company, and we were founded in 2011. We do have a handful of patents and a few that are pending that are out there. We're a smaller organization, but we do have a global footprint, do have offices in Paris and Sydney. Our development takes place in Tucson, Arizona. And lastly, our corporate headquarters in Seattle, Washington. Few of our partners that we've worked with. We have some hardware partners, some software partners that are on there, as well as some example customers that are out there. But to jump into training, it really comes back to this initial slide, is that you have this accelerating skills gap. You have people who have been at organizations for maybe decades, have a lot of knowledge in their head. Those folks are starting to move out of organizations through retirement, through moving to other organizations, or just other reasons. But right now, there's a big outflow of people who are leaving organizations because of these. And then things in the organization are becoming more and more complex. The machines are more complex. The tools being used are more complex. So you have this accelerating skills gap that's going on. And the question that we run into with manufacturers is, how can we solve this problem, or at least slow it down? We might not be able to solve it, but we at least need to find a way to slow it down. So with that accelerating skills gap, the main thing you're losing is the tribal knowledge. You have people walking out the door or retiring every single day, and they have a wealth of 20, 30 years of experience in their head. You need to find a way to capture that before they walk out the door. And it's important to do that as quickly as you can, because they're literally walking out the door on a day-to-day basis. So getting a handle on how do I capture this tribal knowledge is an important thing that we're running into almost with every interaction, especially with manufacturers. The other issue is now when you're bringing people on board, is it's slow. It takes time. The traditional way of doing it, where you're pairing up someone, you might not even have the manpower today to actually do that, where you can pair someone up in a one-to-one fashion where they can get the information that they need to be successful in the organization. Plus, it takes time to be able to do it that way. Bringing people on might take 3 weeks in a classroom. Maybe you're spending a little bit more time than in the field or working in the factory floor. This takes a lot of time. So when you have this knowledge walking out the door, and then you also have a very slow process on onboarding, that is a major issue. The next one that we see is the inconsistency. Because of that, you don't have maybe a head trainer that's going through a very specific way of doing things every single time. Typically, it's multi-touch. You might have a trainer, you might have an onboarder, you might have an expert or somebody who's been with the organization for a long period of time. Those folks all might teach a little bit differently, and they all might share tribal knowledge a little bit differently, things that they've learned over the years, but which is great, but you're also creating an inconsistent process there, right? People are learning differently, different ways of doing it. So how do we become more consistent? I mentioned overburdened with less and less employees and people walking out the door. These guys and gals that have been with the company for a long time, they're very overburdened. It's hard to throw everything at them. We need to find a way to support them. We need to find a way to make sure that they feel taken care of as well. And then this surge of turnover or this surge of people leaving the organization is just putting a lot of stress on the organization. And right now, you just can't keep up because it's just too many people. So what can we do? You can go forward. So what can we do with that? There's a lot of different ways you could tackle this problem, but we're specifically talking about digital work instructions and how digital instructions can help with this problem. But there's multiple ways to learn. And one is more of a sitting at the desk, sitting in a classroom, reading at home, more self-paced. The other one is more active. So very active, hands-on learning. That's how most people learn the best. And with digital instructions, especially as you start to leverage in augmented reality, you start to capture that active learning side of things. Also, how can we enable people who are coming aboard to have a self-paced approach where they can learn as they need to learn? If they want to upskill, how can they upskill on their own without having to engage with a manager or another employee there, so that they can have a self-paced learning approach? We had talked about inconsistency. The nice thing about digital instructions is that it's very consistent. You're getting this consistent message of training every single time. Every new hire that comes aboard, they're getting the same set of training that the last 4 or 5 new hires came aboard. And then if you're talking about upskilling, the people who are upskilling are get the same set of content that the people who have upskilled before. So you have a very consistent way of doing things when you're looking at digital instructions and then layering in some of this augmented reality capabilities. Also, the ability to deploy anywhere needs to be. Some companies we work with are massive, right? Lots of different locations. We find many times that each location has their own way of doing things. So how can we not only create a seamless process at one location, but then take that same way of learning and apply it to all of the locations? So not only are you getting the best of the best learning at one location, that knowledge is being shared anywhere and everywhere in the organization, which can be extremely powerful. I think paired with the self-paced is just unlimited practice. You can go back and review work instructions anytime, especially work instructions that fit today, not the work instructions of yesterday. The work instructions of yesterday are very detailed schematics, very detailed text, sometimes up to 1,200 pages of information that is not always easy to follow. People learn best today. If they want to learn something at home, they maybe go to YouTube, maybe go to another video learning site. They'll watch a video, they'll listen to somebody talk about it. These are the ways that people learn today, and to have unlimited practice using these new media types to learn in a very curated way creates this mastery approach. And it also allows you to scale. And lastly, the integration. I think integration is just, how do we take away some of the administrative burden off of our trainers, off of our experts? They may have to document that they worked with Johnny or Sally and taught them X, Y, or Z. And through integration and through issuing digital work instructions, all of that gets automatically captured. Nobody's having to do any additional administrative work along the way, which can be powerful and save a lot of time. So what we're seeing out there, and I think this is the last slide where we talk specifically about training and we get into more of what we do, is this new way of learning and onboarding and upskilling. Is that you can give someone pre-work today where they're going through, and this is what you'll see in the demonstration, really this flow that you're seeing here, is that before somebody even comes aboard, or maybe it's somebody who's being upskilled. Maybe the next day you want to get them some hands-on training, but before that, you give them some pre-work and you manage that pre-work by having a manager sign off on it, where they're going through this set of work instructions and they're going through all the different things. Maybe it includes a 3D model, maybe it even includes some spatial elements so they can get some familiarity with the actual piece of equipment that they might be working on, all before they even get in front of the piece of equipment. So now you're capturing some of this powerful knowledge, pre-work type mental reps that are going to be critical for this information to stick inside their head. And then the next piece is you take this pre-work, you give them some spatial understanding of that pre-work around being able to see the machine, see what they're looking at, see areas that are going to be important. Now you put them in front of the machine, let's say the next day or the next week, and they're actually going through it again. But they're going through the exact same procedure, but now it's on a physical object or even a 3D model of that physical object. So there's a lot of different ways that you can touch people and get them mental reps before they get the active learning and the hands-on reps. And this just amplifies the retention. One of the challenges you always have with training is retention. How can they hold on to that? And even in this scenario, maybe in the past it was 10% retention. We're going to, with the pre-work and some of these mental reps and then the active learning, you're starting to get up to 20, 30, 40% of retention, but you still need just-in-time training. So when people do get stuck because they didn't retain everything, even if you get to 40% retention, there's still 60% that might have been missed along the way. So you need a way to be able to pull up this exact same set of instructions while you're working live, not have to go bother a manager, not have to go bother another employee, and you can go through this set of instructions just in time when you need it to be able to execute that task or get through that operational function that you might be working on. So this is just a new paradigm of how we're training, and we'll show you a demo of what this might look like inside our system today and touch a couple of different points, whether it's 2 dimensions on a desktop, on a tablet, or maybe on a and then we're going to move into what it might look like inside a hands-free headset. But before we do that, our product, if you haven't seen it before, it's called Manifest. And what we do is we take those traditional documents. Many of our customers are still working in this more traditional mode. Traditional would be, I've got a PDF of an instruction, or I've got some pictures, I've got maybe some videos. That's more traditional type of learning. It's what, frankly, most customers still are doing today. Some customers may have moved to more of a digital where you have a PDF, might be searchable now, might have added some videos, might have added some other components. And then you have the fully modern solution of what work instructions might look like and training might look like with the learning instructions, is that you're working on all devices. You're working in spatial. So you have a spatial understanding of where things need to be done. The good thing about spatial is now you actually know exactly where things need to be done. With traditional learning, you might have all the perfect instructions, but when you get there, you don't know exactly where to put the bolt or pull the hammer or push the button. It's not quite clear. We've all put together something from IKEA, most likely at one point or another. And the instructions, although I'm sure when they put them together, they thought they were perfect and very understandable, that it's not clear exactly where you need to do X or Y or Z. It's not quite clear because it's a 2-dimensional type of a set of instructions. So you bring in this modern where you can know exactly where the work needs to be done, not just what needs to be done. Next slide. So last slide I have here is, I had mentioned this traditional content. So we could take that traditional content, manuals, process docs, SOPs, trainings. We could take that, and you might need it because in highly regulated environments, you have to have a very detailed document that is approved by whomever is doing the approving. So that needs to be there. It doesn't need to be the end all be all. You pair it then with this enriched media, which would be job aids. We call these job aids. This is exactly how you do it. This is the tribal knowledge we were talking about capturing. So you're capturing this tribal knowledge, you're inserting these short videos, you're bringing in pictures, you're bringing in marked up, you're bringing in bookmarks on the specific page of what that manual was. That's the highly curated, regulated documents. So you're covering not only the regulatory side, but you're also now giving the employee the ability to actually execute what they need to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And lastly, we're not talking too much about this today, but it is an operational tool as well. So if you're getting into inspections or preventive maintenance or other forms of tasks, we have the ability to capture evidence, mark faults, have performance data, have work histories on individual assets. So it does have a component of operational to it as well. So that's the talk. And now it's about showing you how we actually can help you solve these problems and what we've seen other customers we've worked with do and some of the impacts that are there. So I'm going to pass it over to Johnny, and Johnny's going to take it from here, and I'll probably pop my head in every once in a while to say hi. But other than that, over to you, Johnny.
Great. Thanks, Joe. So I'm now going to take over the screen, and hopefully now you can all see my screen I'm presenting. So the demo we're going to go through today is going to be a full training scheme for a new starter. So a new trainee has come in, they're going to have to go through multiple layers of training before they're ready to go out into the field and complete tasks operationally. Now, although this training is for a new starter, it could also be for someone who needs to do a refresher. And you'll see when we go through this demo that we're not just sitting on one platform. We're not just using one piece of technology. We're going to use different devices, different methods of training, and a whole host of really rich content to help train someone either for the first time or as a refresher to complete a task. So I'm in the Manifest portal at the moment. I'm in my own training module, a training domain at the moment, and I've navigated to the work tab. So on the work tab, I can see I actually only have one job assigned to myself, and this is actually the full training for a TB20 landing gear. So I'm working on the landing gear, and I know that I need to get trained up on it. So I've been assigned this job, full training, and if I select this Show Subjobs button, I can actually see all of the sub-modules or sub-jobs which are in this full training. So I can see I've got Module 1, Introduction and Safety, Module 2, which is a daily inspection, Module 2 down here, sorry, which is a TB20 blueprint overview, and then a Module 3, which is the daily inspection. So I'm going to open this up, and this will bring me to the first step. Now, what you'll notice is I've started this job, or at least I've opened this job, starting on the web portal. So again, we can use multiple different methods and devices to start, complete, and edit, and go through work tabs, work procedures as we need to, and training modules. And for this task and for this step, I'm actually going to start on the web portal. So before I start, I'm able to see on the left-hand side all the steps and all the sub-jobs that I'm going to go through. So I can see we have our full training module, step 2, which is going to be a sub-job for, if I select this, for safety and inspection, safety and introduction. And as I go on, I can review all these steps. Now I can also review the asset I'm working on. So if I select this asset details tab at the top, I can see that I'm working on the TB20 static landing gear, and I'm working on the specific asset, which is going to be the training asset as I'm doing my training today. Now, just to make it a bit neater, I'm going to hit this hide details button. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to hit this start job button just here. Now, that's going to kick off a timer. And actually, if I show details 1 second, you'll see that timer is now kicked off. Step 1 is active. and the percentage marker will also kick off. And this is just showing that we're creating a work record as we go through this job. We're tracking which steps I complete, any evidence I leave, and there's a record and a data record for the training that I'm doing. So someone can check that I've completed the training. Now we've started, if I read this first step on the left, it is saying, this is a full training course for the TB20 landing gear. This course will go through 3 modules. Please move to the next step when you're ready to begin the web-based introduction. Now, in the center of my screen, I also have a bit more information about what this module or this full training will include. So I can see the first module is a web-based introduction. The second module is an iPad application schematic overview. And the third one is a head-mounted device walkthrough. So we're using 3 different devices here for 3 different layers of training. So I'm going to hit this done button on the right, and that's going to jump me to step 2, which says this section will be the web-based introduction for the landing gear, introduction and safety procedures. Please proceed to the sub-job. And if I look to the right, we have our sub-job highlighted here. And all I need to do is select this module. So go to job. That will jump me to a separate module. So module 1, introduction and safety. And I can hit this hide details button. And now I can run through this specific module. So again, although I'm working through a full training here, I've been diverted to a certain module. If this was a refresher course, maybe I only need to do module 1 set by itself. So we can be quite flexible in how we present this data. But the first step we have is just a generic overview of the TB20 landing gear. You can see that step on the left. And in the center of our screen, we have some information which will help me orientate myself with the asset. So I've got some configuration data, some types and structure, brake system, emergency operation, just some text that I can read to get myself familiar with the asset. And if I tap this chevron arrow to the right, I can also open up an additional piece of data, an additional note that we can have here. And this is actually a full manual. You'll notice this is actually the maintenance manual for the TB20. So again, I can read through this, I can scroll through this, I have the information available to actually orientate myself and get the good overview I want. We can also bring in photos and videos. So if there's any photos and videos, for an example of what the aircraft and landing gear would look like, you can bring them in here as well. So I'm going to hit the done button and move to the next step, which is purpose and performance. Again, we have a nice little schematic of the purpose of the landing gear, showing the 3 landing gears which would appear on the typical aircraft. I can, just like before, cycle across, see a nice little text note for the purpose and the performance. And I can also cycle across and see the PDF manual, which is in here. Now, what you'll notice is this manual is actually pinpointed to page 15 out of 22. So although 22 pages isn't a very long manual, if you have any really long, quite chunky, quite beefy manuals, we can pinpoint a certain step to a specific page of a manual, which is super useful when we're looking at these larger manuals, especially if you want someone to be directed to a page immediately. There's no reason I couldn't just scroll through though and read the rest of the manual as I need, but that pinpoint ability is super useful to getting that information to someone immediately. So I'm going to hit the next button, done, and my final step here is just giving me a bit of an indication of the daily inspections and pre-flight checks that are required. And this is actually a good precursor to the next 2 modules I'll go through, because this is some of the content which I'll start to look at before I start working on the physical asset as well. So I can read through this, see the actual inspection list that I'll go through, read through this as and when I need as well. And then when I'm done, I can hit the done button. And the final step here is just sign off and leave date of module completion. So the previous 3 steps have been very linear. I've just gone through them at my own pace and at my own speed. But now this step, I cannot move off this step. So you see the done button is grayed out. I actually can't leave this step until I leave some evidence. So this evidence button has appeared highlighted as red. So this is just making me as a trainee confirm that I have understood. I've actually gone through this training and I'm happy. So what I'm going to do is hit add evidence, and you'll notice I can leave any of these edit evidence types, videos, photos, text notes, but the text has this red icon. So this is asking me, or actually telling me that I have to leave a text note. So I'm going to leave a date here. As I'm in the UK, I will type 070825, and that's the date that I would have completed this task. I can hit save, and that's been added as some evidence. That could be reviewed by a training manager, me if I want to, or someone just wondering when I completed this training. I can then hit the done button, and that jumps me back to the original full training manual or training module, and we're back to the step 2. I can confirm I completed module 1, so I can hit the done button. Now, the next step is going to be asking me to navigate to module 2. But if I read on the left-hand side, we can see this section is a schematic overview of the landing gear. Make sure this subjob is completed on an iPad. So this is where we're asking someone to now move from the web-based portal, either in an office or at home, to an iPad, which again could also be in an office or at home, but it could also be in the field, in a factory, in a production line, wherever the training center might be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause this job. So I'll hit pause at the top. You can see the timer stops. And now I'm going to move to my iPad. And I'll just navigate here. And in the background, I do have my iPad open. So I'm in my iPad now. And again, the brilliant thing about Manifest is Manifest at the back of the system and the data is agnostic to the device we use. So any data I work on the web portal, I can pause and pick up on the tablet. Likewise, I can do that up to a headset as well. So what you'll notice is on the iPad application, I have a number of jobs I've already completed, but I also have this job just here, which is the same job that I was going through, the full training, but we're only 33% of the way through. So I'm going to tap and open it up. And you can see we're actually left the exact spot we were when we left the web portal. So I can see we were 6 minutes in. I can maybe review some of the original steps I did to see that I was happy with those 2 steps up there. And when I'm ready and I'm happy to continue, I can hit this resume button just at the top. And that will kick the timer off again and my training will continue. Now that was a very quick transition, but this could be a day, a week, or however long the training needs to be stopped. But the flexibility is really useful to providing that full experience for the user. So the next step is asking me, now that I'm on the iPad, to move to the subjob of module 2. So I'll hit go to job. And just like before, we're going to be taken to the second job. Now this one, as it's a visual overview of the landing gear and an inspection, I'm actually going to hit this hide details at the top and really make use of all the real estate of the iPad screen. And this first step is just giving me a bit of information about this module. It's saying this is a visual overview of the TB20 landing gear. This module will virtually guide you through a physical inspection of a future physical inspection of the asset. So it's giving me a bit of indication there. And what I can do now is hit this done button. And this will jump me to the next step. Now, this procedure is quite a nice visual one, not much 2D data here as videos or photos, but it's going to give me a nice 3D model, which is not only AR annotated, but also 3D model animated. So at the top of the page, you'll be able to see my step, which is asking me to review the location of the strut and actuators. And if I look in the center of my screen, I can see this 3D model. Now this 3D model is manipulable by me, so I can move this around, I can manipulate it, I can zoom in, but I can also see these animations play really nicely. And what this is doing is giving me a visual understanding of some tasks that I'll have to complete later on the physical asset. But when I'm done with this one, and I've maybe given a quick overview of the strut and actuators, I can hit the done button on the right. And again, it will take me to the next step, which is asking me to check or review the locations of the linkage connections. So I can see again that if I move this model around, I can see that I have some green and yellow annotated arrows. And then I also have some animations playing of exactly where these linkage connections are placed. And this is really useful just to show me exactly the location and the function of these linkage connections and what should and shouldn't be happening as well. I can move around. So I'll hit the done button on the right and jump to the next step. And it's important to note that on this step, on this procedure, there isn't any 2D data. So there's no videos or photos currently in here, but we could easily have them appearing. So if you wanted to have a video or a photo or a manual, they could also appear in this procedure on the iPad alongside the 3D model. So it doesn't just have to be 3D animated or annotated models, but that is an option we have available. And when I'm done, I've quickly checked the tire tightening bolt. I'm going to hit done, and that will jump me to the final step, which is to review location of the tire. Pretty easy one, but if I actually move around here, we'll be able to get a nice overview of kind of the internal workings of this tire underneath with an arrow there as well. So we can bring in these 3D models, get a good orientation, good visual orientation of the asset on a 2D environment with a 3D model. We don't have to use AR when we get into things straight away, but it does give someone a nice understanding and a nice confidence to know what they're looking for. So I'm going to hit the done button now, and that will move me or complete that step. And with that step completed, it returns me to the original full training on the iPad, and I can confirm I just completed that. So I'll hit this done button just here. Now, what this is going to do is actually throw up a congratulations, because all the steps I can complete up until this point have been completed. And what now is going to do is throw this procedure, this full training, over to my training manager, who today is going to be Chris Hill. And you can see an indication of the step at the top there, but this is where a trainer actually has to sign off the training that I've completed. So both the web client and the iPad client, they have to sign off that training, and I cannot take part in this training anymore until I have that sign off. And this is all before I work on the physical asset. So I'll throw this over to Chris now, and hopefully he'll be able to approve my training.
Great. Thanks, Johnny. That 3D content is awesome. Really provides amazing context for trainees, and it really unlocks some of the pre-work that Joe's talking about. So you can really enable people to go through mental reps, experiencing the equipment in a very safe, controlled environment. But having said that, it's completely optional. It's pretty easy to put together 3D models now. They're pretty accessible. You can get them for forklifts and carts and all sorts of types of equipment. And you don't need a fancy XR headset to view that kind of stuff. Johnny was showing it in an iPod, which is completely acceptable and again enables that kind of self-paced pre-work type training. So we're back here. We're looking at the web portal. Some of us call it the web app. This is a multifunctional kind of app. It's an admin console. So it's where you can define all the assets and equipment that are associated with your training or procedures. It's where you can organize your workers, your training, your information. You can organize information by teams or business units, locations, all sorts of flexibility there. Of course, you don't have to use any of this. You can use the default settings. It's where managers keep track of what work is in progress, what's been assigned, what's been complete. There's a full work history that will tell you who did what, when, where. There's a full fault system to keep track of, like open faults, what's been resolved, again, when, where, what. So really powerful app. And of course, what Johnny just showed you, you can actually use it to follow a step-by-step procedure. The other thing that's nice and consistent across all our apps is it has built-in remote assist. So with this Connect, I could be an expert in my office and field workers could be connecting back to me and we could be collaborating in real time. You can be sharing video. You can be sharing documents. In this case, Johnny shared and assigned a task to me. So I'm going to open up that training module that he assigned to me earlier on this demo, and I can look at the work that he's completed. I can see that he's done the first few modules, and there's a step here for me. So if I go ahead and resume that, I can go to this step, and it's looking for me to sign off on this. And after review, it all looks good. So I can just go ahead again, add evidence, in this case, a text note, and I can just say it looks good. Simple as that. And that record is stored as part of this training module. It's part of the work history now. That step is complete when I hit done, and that procedure will now be reassigned back to Johnny. So that's the other thing that's worth noting is that we have this concept of team jobs where you can have multiple workers. In this case, we have a trainee and a manager, but you can share responsibility for a specific procedure, and Manifest is smart enough to keep track of all what's happening and who's doing what specific steps. So I've signed off on that, but there looks like there are a few more steps for this training module that Johnny needs to do. So I'm going to go ahead and send it back to Johnny. If you're ready, Johnny.
Yes, I am indeed. So I will take over the sharing again for one moment, and hopefully you'll be able to see. I've now moved to a head-mounted experience, and what you'll be able to see is a head-mounted experience and hands-free environment. but I'm also in front of the physical landing gear. Apologies if it's slightly dark in the room, but hopefully you can see clearly. But I'm in front of the physical landing gear. I've completed my virtual training, but now I need to have some guidance and some training on the physical asset in front of me. So I'm in Manifest at the moment, and I've logged in, I've accepted my account, and I can see that our Connect window, so our video chatting, our remote assistance window has come up, and it said, Chris Hill sent step 5 to Johnny. So what I can do is I can open that up. So I've actually already got the work tab open, and I can see the full training TB20 landing gear job which is assigned to me or back to me. And what I can do very easily is tap it open, and I can see, if I minimize that, the job, Chris actually left some evidence that, again, I could actually open this evidence and view it. So he said, it looks good, which is perfect, gives me confidence to continue. And then when I want to continue, all I need to do is hit this resume button over here. Now, it's going to ask me to actually anchor my experience or associate myself with my asset. So I'm going to select scan marker, and we'll utilize the front-facing cameras. And I'll get down next to this QR code on the asset just here. It's worth noting, but there are a couple of different ways to anchor experience. I'm using a QR code today as this asset already has one on. But immediately I'm just going to minimize that. I have a description or a step marker appear to me, and this one is asking me to proceed to the next step as long as I have a head-mounted device on, complete the next sub-job. So just like on the iPad and just like on the web portal, I'll select go to job. And now in a hands-free environment, I can run through module 3, which is actually an inspection of the landing gear. Now, these steps directly link to some of the work that I completed in the previous module, step 2. So you'll notice where it says inspect landing gear for leaks and cracks on this step description. If I looked up here, I can see these yellow lines, which we call leader lines, are guiding my vision to the actuators and the strut, directly linked from the previous module. On top of these yellow leader lines, we actually have some AR content. So we have a red square, some 2 red circles, which are anchored in space. So as I move around, these are actually locked in space on this asset, just really guiding me of exactly where to look for this task. Now, if I need any additional content as well, I can also open up some enriched media, some enriched 2D media. So if I hover over where it says photo notes, the photo icon, I can bring up a really nice little photo, give an example of what cracks would look like. These are all modular and movable. And what I mean by that is I can grab this photo, bring it over and place it nicely next to the landing gear. And then with just a flick of my eyes, I can actually review if there's any cracks. Likewise, if I hit the right arrow, I can see a nice video showing how I check for any leaks as well. I might just dock this back over to the right-hand side, and we can have that video playing. This is all a hands-free experience, so it might look quite close to you when I do this, but I can get nice and close, and I can actually touch the landing gear, check the actuators are all okay. And then when this task is done, I can hit the done button and move to the next step, which step 2 of the procedure is asking me to secure the linkage connections. So again, you'll see from the iPad view we did, that was a very good indication for this step, which is I'm checking all these linkage connections of the landing gear. I have some arrows up here that again would appear like be anchored in physical space, which really help me identify the locations I'm working in. And then I'm also presented with some additional notes. So I have a nice text note here. I have, again, this nice photo, which has been marked up, which says ensure all bolts are tight. And then the final thing I can bring up is, this might come off the screen slightly, but I can also bring up any of those manuals which we looked at earlier. So those manuals that we looked at in step 1 and 2, module 1 and 2, we can bring up. And I can see this manual is actually pinpointing me to page 4 of 60. So again, we're trying to provide the really rich information to someone when and where they need it. So for that one, I'll close down that step, that note, and that note. And similarly to some of the other steps we've been through today, I am now required to leave some evidence. So this is a key step, it's called a very important step to go through. So I cannot move off this step. If I try and hit the done button, I get an error saying you have to leave some evidence. So what I can do is tap this evidence required button, and I can leave any piece of evidence I want So typically I would leave a photo here or maybe a video showing the linkage connections being secure, but I'm actually just going to leave a quick text note here, add text note, and I'll just say all connections are secure. So I can just use audio as text here. We don't have to type out with my hands, but I can leave some evidence. I can tap OK, and we've left some evidence there. Now I'll hit the done button, and we're almost at the end. We get one more step here saying inspect the entire wheel for any damage and imperfections. So I can again check the wheel. It's a little bit dark, so maybe I need to have a flashlight or something, but I could move around, check the wheel. Again, similar to the previous steps, I have nice text note here, a really nice little photo. That's actually a very obvious photo, I'd say, and then a manual there available. Now, I won't go through the full example here because I think the wheel is acceptable and there's no imperfections. But if I did run into any issues and I needed some support, maybe if Chris was on hand and I needed some help, I can access that connect window, so that video calling and chat window if I need to. So I can hit this connect button and I can type in Chris's name and I'd be able to search for Chris. You can see we have Chris appear here. Now, if I wanted to, I can make a video call with him. He could see the exact view you're seeing right now, and he'd be able to provide me support. So if I needed help in my training, I can get that hands-on experience and training and support as well. But for the moment, I'm happy with the wheel. I'm happy with the inspection. So I'm going to hit this done button, and that will fire us to the final step, which is asking me to ensure the visibility of the tire size is on the tire. Again, it's a little bit dark, but I can see the tire size here, which is 50. But this step, similar in a different format to some of the other steps we've been through, is actually asking me or giving me an option. So the previous steps have all been very linear, very me following a process, following through some training, but now I'm being asked to make a decision. The decision isn't the most important one, but it's asking me, does the tire need cleaning? But this is just a good example for not all procedures have to be linear. We can create really dynamic and split decision trees in Manifest, especially as most tasks tend not to be linear, and most trainings can be really enriched with some decision making in there as well. But for the moment, and it's just important to know, each one of these options could take me down a different path. So yes, it needs cleaning, could assign me a job for the cleaning, but for this scenario, I'm going to hit no cleaning is needed. I'm going to hit the done button, and that's going to send me back to the original manual or original job where it says module 5, and I'm happy with that. Step 5 is done. And the final step here is saying you have completed your training on the TB20 landing gear. Select the done button to confirm and finish. So I'll select complete job, done. I get a nice tick in the center of my screen confirming I've completed the task. And then I have my full training here available for me to review. So I can see it took me 17 minutes at the top. I can actually see I completed all these modules. I could go into these modules if I wanted to review all the information, any faults, evidence I left, the decisions I made, and I can see all of this in a nice clear view. Although this is useful on a headset, it's primarily used and useful for managers, training staff, supervisors to review the work at the end on a web portal. But with that, we come to the end of my training and then the end of the demo. So I'm going to hand it back to Chris and Joe, who should be able to go through a couple more of the slides to finish us up.
Awesome. Thanks, Johnny. So let's get to the right slide here. So that was a great view of the end-to-end process that Joe was talking about, doing some pre-work with the web app, doing some practice with the 3D model on the iPad, and then ultimately using that same procedure. You don't need a different procedure to actually either do the training or the procedure and process with actual equipment. So it's a really flexible view of the type of different training you can enable. So let me turn that over to you, Joe.
And I think from a retention perspective, that's probably the most important, right? Is making sure that if somebody's being upskilled or somebody who's a new hire is retaining as much information as you can. And if you're hitting them with different senses and different ways of learning all up front before they're giving them the active training, that's just going to make the retention shoot through the roof, where they're getting the mental reps, They're getting some physical reps. They're also getting some spatial reps, whether it's in a two-dimensional format or three-dimensional hands-free format like Johnny showed. But the more you can hit them with the same procedure, they're going to become more and more familiar, more and more comfortable, and also more confident when they're walking up to the actual physical machine or task that they're being asked to do. So I think, and the other thing, I think it was a small piece in there, the fact that you could build a module that has 3 or 4 different components to it, and in between, you have the ability to assign that to a manager. So the manager then has to review it, sign off on it. So then there's a digital record of module 1 being done. Johnny completed it, manager looked at it, manager signed off on it. And to touch on the last piece of integration, then you can just take all that data and move it to back to your LMS. So long term that Johnny did the module 1 on this day and this time, and Chris, his manager, signed off on it. These are the notes. These are the evidence they left. This is when they did module 2. So you're eliminating a lot of that administrative burden, but you're also getting this huge audit trail that's very important to most training organizations. I think this slide's probably for me as well, but a few different ways from a getting started perspective. A lot of companies we work with will start with our Rapid Insight program. So we have a couple different flavors. We have a 3-month Rapid Insight program and a 6-month version. One includes us helping you mostly remotely, setting some benchmarks, testing, A/B testing, coming up with kind of a comprehensive review. But most of that is done remotely in the 3-month plan. And then there's also a 6-month where we're more hands-on. We'll come on site. We'll actually do some work with you. We'll help build the content with you or even for you. But these are just great ways to get started. And then there's other ways. You could just buy a couple of licenses. We have this 3 license pack just for a training quick start. It comes with some additional training as well. And then for those of you who might have already dipped your toe into digital work instructions and augmented reality and might have a platform like Guides, we do have a program to help migrate people who are on Guides today, because the Microsoft is going end of life with some of these products that they offer, the HoloLens specifically, that we can help you migrate off of Guides and onto Taqtile. So these are just a couple of different ways we can help you get started and help guide you in the right direction.
Great. So we're going to open it up for Q&A. There's a couple of QR codes here. Feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box and we'll hit them. Looks like there's one already there. While we do that, these couple QR codes will get a little bit more information. So the first one up, upper left, will take you to our resource page. You can take a look at case studies, overviews, ebooks, white papers, a lot of good information. There's a couple links there that you can set up meetings as well if you want to talk in detail to Joe or other folks on our team. And then if you're not aware, we have a free app on the Apple App Store that works on iPhone and iPad and even the Vision Pro, Manifest Maker. This is a really cool app. It was originally designed as a creation tool, so as a way to make documenting knowledge and capturing knowledge and creating your first digital instructions really easy. We leverage AI to transform videos or PDFs into step-by-step guides. So it's a great place to start. It's a great place to create, but it also has elements of operational components. So you can actually run through some workflows, simple, but it's just a simple app to help you get started. So that's available from that QR code on the bottom right. So feel free to check out those. Looks like just one question here for now. Joe, I don't know if you want to cover that, but someone's asking about basically device support. They noticed that we support DigiLens. We have a couple big customers looking to use that device. And then they're asking about our railware support.
So I can't, the Q&A is not popping up on my screen, but today we support a couple of different hands-free headsets, not one of them not being the RealWear. RealWear is not a spatial device, so we've chosen to focus on spatial device. We have had builds on the RealWear in the past. It actually is a great device for the remote assist aspect of things, but if you're talking about a rich media step-by-step instruction. We just found that it's not the right platform for us, so we've chosen to walk away from that. What we have chosen to build on and work with, at least for the time being, for what's available that gives you the full experience in a hands-free way, is going to be the Apple Vision Pro, is going to be the Meta Quest, also HoloLens, also Magic Leap, the DigiLens. There are going to be quite a few headsets coming out over the next, let's call it 6 to 12 months. And we are a device agnostic type vendor. So when you build content one time, it's going to be available on any device that we support in the same format. So as new devices come out that give the full augmented reality, digital work instruction type experience, we're going to be launching our product on those devices as well. And those will be available and announced when ready.
Yeah, and I would just reinforce that we really strive to create device flexibility. So we're always working on new versions as well as existing versions. Really, we're market driven. And if we have demand for a specific headset, we'll consider that closely. And then also, I just wanted to add, because it's part of the question, someone points out that it looks like PTC's Vuforia expert capture might be end of lifing as well. We've heard that from a number of different people. Joe mentioned the guides program, but that program is not specific to guides. We could also use that for Vuforia customers. If you have that solution and looking for a replacement, we can help you do that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so that looks like the only question for today. So I'll throw it out there. It looks like there's a bunch of people. If you have any questions, both Joe and Johnny spend a lot of time with customers on a daily basis. They're very familiar with headsets, our solution, other solutions, customer problems. So if you have a question, this is a good time to ask it.
One thing I will point out is that when you're talking about augmented reality, obviously people gravitate towards hands-free headwear, glasses. That's a vision where everybody wants to go, but everybody needs to start somewhere. And the tribal knowledge and the capturing of information that's walking out the door, that's happening today. And maybe you're not ready for a hands-free headset. Maybe you're not ready, or you don't think your people are ready to take that kind of a jump, or maybe you don't think the right device is out there today. We run into that. All these come up all the time when we're talking to customers. It's okay to start with capturing. It's okay to create the content. You got to start with the content. There's also lots of talk of AI tools and how AI can benefit on a work instruction perspective. But if you don't have good work instructions in a digital format that the AI can use and the information that it can use to make decisions, or if you don't have adoption of the digital work instructions or adoption of a new process that you're putting in place for learning, it doesn't really matter what AI is out there. So you have to start with creating the content. You have to start with creating the instructions. You have to start with some of the change management. That is the most important thing to get started with. The headsets are going to change. The glasses are going to change. We'll be there to support all of that going forward. That'll just be one day a new headset comes out, you find out we support it, you've already built out all your content, you put on the new pair of glasses, and all of a sudden it's an even better experience because the new technology on the headwear is better. So when you're thinking about this, don't get too pigeonholed into the headsets or the type of headset. Think about it as knowledge capture. Think about it as a uniform way of creating a process of teaching, of learning. And think about the tools that you already use today, tablets, desktops. That's how you get started. And all the other stuff will come over time. Absolutely. And we're all excited about it, but you might not be ready for that yet. So that'd just be my only advice as we leave here today.
That's good advice. Good advice. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. If anyone has any other questions, you got a couple seconds left. We'll do another one of these webinars next month. If you want to talk to us before that, feel free to reach out to us. There's plenty of forms on our website to set up a meeting, and we'd be happy to address any of your questions or talk about how you can start using this stuff. So thank you, Joe and Johnny. Thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.